morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, my name is Dr. Green. I'm going to be interviewing you today.
Okay.
So, we're just going to get started right off the bat.
Okay.
Don't be nervous. It's okay. Calm down. This is very conversational. We just want to get to know you a little bit more. All right?
Okay.
All right. So, tell me about yourself.
So, my name is mcgovern. I am from Houston, Texas, born and raised here. I'm actually Nigerian American. I am the youngest of 4 siblings. My mom was a nurse, my dad was a teacher. And so at a very young age, he kind of like brought me along with her on her little trips to her home health visits as a nurse. And that's when I kind of was exposed to medicine at a very early age. And so at that point, I realized how excited I was to be in that space with her. And so when I got to college, I wanted to like seek those opportunities out some more in the medical field. And it wasn't until I actually got to medical schools when I recognized how much of a privilege it was to even be in that space so early on. And so from there, I was able to get more involved in mentorship and just find that was my passion. And that's kind of what catapulted me into the YouTube space and me and my mentorship channel on there.
That's awesome. Actually, I was going to ask you about the YouTube channel a little bit later, but since you brought it up, can you tell me a little bit more about that and how you got started?
So me and my colleague Jessica, we're actually on that channel to provide representation to underrepresented minorities in STEM. As fourth-year medical students, we really were passionate about continuing that legacy as we were in medical school, and so we wanted to be able to kind of just show students that we are struggling, medical students. We are very transparent about our journeys. We're not perfect at all, but we knew that on our journey it was very hard and it was very rare to see people who look like us on public platforms talking about their struggles, and we wanted to be that representation for other students. And so we've been able to, really touch a lot of people across the nation, across the world, honestly. We've been able to give MCAT prep resources. We've been able to give financial assistance to these students. And we just provide virtual mentorship, helpful tips and tricks to get through medical school, to get through the pre-med life as well. And so it's just been a very rewarding experience, and we've amassed almost like 10,000 views and supporters across the world, and it's been an amazing experience.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. You should be very proud of yourself.
I am.
So tell me, why anesthesiology?
So I honestly wanted to do primary care at first when I got into medical school. If you had told me that I was going into anesthesia now, I would have called you a liar, honestly. But the thing is, I was very passionate about primary care because I wanted to serve the underserved, but I also wanted to serve a variety of people, a diverse group of people. And I felt that once I got into third-year medical school, I kind of felt there was something missing from that space. And so I was able to chat with an anesthesiologist at that point, and he basically showed me that the realms of primary care that I really enjoyed, which is, serving the underserved and being with diverse groups of people, I could still do that in anesthesiology, but I could also do that in a very critical care space. And I learned to think quick on my feet. I learned to be able to be calm under pressure and be flexible in that space, and that was something that really drove me to, pursue this field. Additionally, I loved, doing procedures. I found that, being able to kind of have this short-term effect on a patient in the OR was very exciting for me, and I wanted to continue to do that. And so by continuing shadowing Dr. Williams and continuing to shadow other mentors, I was able to really just fall in love with anesthesiology.
Awesome. Okay, so let's say your mom. If your mom could choose 3 words to describe you, what would those 3 words be and why?
If my mom could choose 3 words, she would call me bold.
Okay.
Bold because I was very outspoken as a child. I definitely was someone who was very vocal about my needs, my desires, my dreams, my aspirations, and she felt as though I didn't shrink myself in any spaces that I was in. I definitely was someone who wanted to speak up for others and was very passionate about that, and which is why I was so passionate about mentorship now. I would say that she will call me compassionate. I think that the fact that I knew that healthcare was a space where I could continue to do that was what drew me in this field to begin with, but also knowing that even in anesthesiology, the fact that I will be able to build that rapport with patients very, very in a short period of time before they go into their preoperative cases, knowing that I could do that and be comfortable doing that at the bedside was something that I knew would be a strong suit for me, especially in this field. And then lastly, she would say that I was flexible. So in the sense that there was a lot of different dynamics in the household, a lot of quick changes, being around 3 boys, there's a lot of, changes that happened over time. And I think that by being someone who was very observant and very aware of my surroundings, I was able to kind of mold myself and kind of be malleable to certain situations. If they were uncomfortable or if they were inconvenient for me, I kind of went with the flow. I rolled with the punches, and I kind of made the most and the best of the situation.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So, kind of going in the opposite route, what would you say is your biggest weakness and why?
My biggest weakness would probably be the fact that I do suffer from imposter syndrome at some times. I feel as though I'm in a space where you are underrepresented. You feel as though you're not meant to be in certain spaces, or you're not good enough or smart enough to be in those spaces. But I do feel like that is something that has really driven me to even perform better than I would have otherwise. I feel as though by constantly knowing that there are going to be times where I fail, there are going to be times where I don't do well, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to be a great doctor. It's just a flaw in the system. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect human. No one is. And I think that by experiencing that throughout medical school, I've also learned to, motivate myself and reinvigorate myself when I do feel down. And that's something that I know will happen in residency. There's going to be procedures that I fail at. There's going to be times where I disappoint a patient or disappoint my teammates. But I think that being able to bounce back from that situation, not suffering, fall into a toxic, vicious cycle is going to be helpful, in the long run, especially because I've gotten practice doing that in medical school. So,
yeah. Awesome. Okay. So residency's hard.
Yeah.
Residency's hard.
Yes.
Especially intern year, you're new. You really don't know what's going on.
Right.
And so you're gonna get a lot of feedback, a lot of advice, a lot of critique. How do you handle criticism?
So I think that I handle criticism very well. The reason why I say that is because most of the time criticism comes from a place of, okay, how can this person be better? Now, if I take it from the point of that perspective, I know that there's always room for improvement. And I think that by my mentors or my teachers or professors or, attendings showing me the way to go, it can only mean that they see potential in me and they see greatness within me. And I think that by looking at it from that perspective has really molded me and shaped me to be better and always challenge myself and be open and, receptive to critique.
Awesome. So you have an extensive amount of research. So I want you to tell me a little bit about the project, about the diversity and anesthesiology residency programs. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my mentor and I, we wanted to explore why anesthesia programs are not as diverse in certain specialties, specifically in anesthesiology. And so we sent out a survey to a lot of the national residency programs in the United States. And we had residents answer questions about their demographic background and what they had viewed as diversity in anesthesia programs. We also had them answer questions regarding the importance of diversity to them on the interview trail, what they viewed as more important, whether it was diversity, whether it was diversity in faculty, diversity in residents, diversity in patient population, diversity in city. And so we kind of had people assess what that meant to them. And we saw that in applicants who were in the minority, which were female applicants and underrepresented minorities, they felt as though diversity weighed more to them than their counterparts. In addition, they felt that the conversations that they had on the interview trail were more important than the actual interview day. So for example, speaking to the other fellow interviewees on the interview trail, to them, those anecdotal experiences kind of helped them shape their decision to pick a residency program or rank them higher or lower. And I think the end result from that was the fact that we learned that underrepresented minorities and female applicants are underrepresented in anesthesiology, but it's very, very important to push for more representation in those fields. It's very important to see female attendings maybe on the interview trail. It's very important to be authentic on the interview trail so that applicants know, okay, we do value you. We see that it's important to have a field of physicians that represent the city that they're in or the population that they're serving.
Cool. So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Seems like you have a lot of different passions, especially outside of anesthesiology, but specifically with anesthesia, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So I think in 5 years, God willing, I will be a first year attending. And as you know, there's different fields I could go into as far as private practice, as far as academic. And I think that as of right now, it is so hard to tell where I will be academically because there are a lot of cases that will come from my residency training. I might go into chronic pain, I might go into cardiac. I'm not really sure where I'll be as far as academics or my actual career. But I do think that regardless of where I'm at, I will be mentoring students.
Okay.
I will be mentoring residents. I'm so passionate about that I feel like I can do that in any space that I am in. And I want to be able to continue to mentor pre-med students as well on the side as far as my YouTube channel. I want to be able to continue to advocate for my patients in any way possible. And I hope to really be just enacting change in my field, continuing to do research and continuing to, push the movement forward.
Awesome. Okay, so why specifically do you want to come to our program?
So I believe that McGovern is definitely a place where I felt the most at home. I feel like it being my home institution definitely helped that I was exposed to the residents here and the faculty here. And in the COVID pandemic, it was very hard to assess that in other programs. And I think that it was such a great opportunity for me to see the dynamic between residents and each other, the fact that they actually do enjoy being around each other. I love the fact that it's in Houston. Houston is my hometown. It is so diverse. And I know that this school values diversity. It values the representation that is important for patients to see. The fact that we're in the Texas Medical Center is also a very big deal, right? And the brevity of cases that I'll be able to see, the diversity of cases that I'll be able to see, I know that I will be a competent anesthesiologist whenever I graduate from this program. I think that the attendings here are very, very diverse. They come from different institutions, which means I won't be just learning the McGovern way. I'll be learning from professors who trained at Harvard, trained at USC, trained at Columbia, and I think that that's important for me to pick from those great minds so that I can curate my own way to do my practice. And so overall, McGovern is a place that has really treated me with respect and has welcomed me with open arms, and I think that I will be trained competently and I will be happiest here at this program.
All right, so those are all of my questions. It was a pleasure getting to know you. What questions do you have for me?
Yes, so what do you feel like makes a strong resident at your program?
That's a good question. Definitely things that you already touched on. Somebody who's compassionate, somebody who's flexible, somebody who's teachable. You're not going to know everything. We don't expect you to know everything, but we want to make sure that we're able to teach you and you can learn quickly. So those are pretty much the things that we're looking for in like a solid candidate.
Right. Okay. And what do you think, if there's anything you could change about your program, what would you change about your program?
That's a good question. Let's see. I mean, from my standpoint, diversity is super important to me as well, and we want to be the most diverse program in the country. So if we can continue to increase our diversity, whether it's Hispanic, Black, Asian, we just want everybody to be represented in our program. So the more we reach out and have outreach and mentorship, like you mentioned, the better that our program will be, especially since we do live in Houston and we want to represent the population that we serve. And so I feel like just continuing to increase our diversity in our program is something that we can work on.
Awesome. So I asked this question to all the programs. If you could describe your program in 3 words, how would you describe your program?
Let's see. Diverse, I would say. Hardworking. What's the last one? Genuine.
Okay. I like that. Thank you. Well, I really had a good time. I really hope that I was able to articulate myself in my application in the most, the best way possible. And I hope you got a good impression from this interview. And I would be really, really happy if I came to McGovern.
Yeah, it was great meeting you. Have a good day.